D&D players, what was the nat 20 that made your DM facepalm?
Wingardium Leviosa.
I was once playing a bard. We were about to enter into a combat with a religious zealot. I decided to try to convince him of the error of his thinking. I rolled a nat 20. The zealot decided there was only one way to recover from his lapse in faith. He killed himself, ending what was supposed to be a large battle before it ever really began.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I, DM, had a party where I had a fairly long arc planned that would eventually wind up with them battling a death knight in the ruins of a church. They, despite my best "are you sure?" ing, decided to explore the church way earlier than I intended them to. The party rogue decides to talk to the death knight. Rolls a 20 on their charm attempt. I muff the punt on the DK's reaction. She ended up having a bloody conversation with the undead champion, getting a gift of a magical dagger, and leaving me befuddled as to exactly how the hell I was supposed to get them to cycle back to fighting him later. Fun RP session, terrible for my plot.
Wingardium Leviosa.
So my incredibly low-int barbarian had the idea that the best way to attack an air elemental is from the air. Facepalm number 1. Furthermore, he does this by turning a tree into a slingshot, with himself as the ammo. Facepalm number 2. DM asks for the attack roll. Nat 20. Double facepalms.
Wingardium Leviosa.
One of my very first campaigns was run by my sister, who was doing a great job at making it up as she went along. We were supposed to be helping this boy clean an insanely high wizard's tower, and every floor had something new on it. This particularly high floor had what was described to be a snoring baby Terusk, that we were supposed to sneak past and not wake up. We rolled to, roll the sleeping baby Terusk out of the nearby balcony window. 2 nat 20s and the baby Terusk fell to its death, crushing the dwarf barbarian's horse in the process. Those early campaigns were insane.
Wingardium Leviosa.
During my first campaign, my party and I were in a dungeon fighting the final boss. It was a huge gross Cthulhu monstrosity, and we had gotten to the end of the fight where one more hit should finish him off when another player suggested that we should try to tame it. Our DM just rolled his eyes, but I had over 20 base stat in my charisma, so I was willing to take that chance. I rolled a nat 20. My entire party stood up screaming at the table when the DM hushed us and continued the session. Long story short, I had a monster companion the size of a house just chilling with me. My DM later told me if I hadn't rolled a 20 I was essentially gonna be attacked on the spot, which would have definitely killed my character. One of my favorite D&D moments ever.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Quietly removed about 40-ish feet of forest in every direction. The official canon was that they high-fived so hard they leveled a magical forest. Not my role, but 2 of my friends who were also players. For this story, let us call them D and Dumb, for reasons that should be obvious soon. Our DM was running the 4E Tomb of Horrors campaign, and to this day it wasn't just the first and only time someone made 4E an absolute blast. It was one of the best games I ever had the privilege to be a part of. And everything got off to the most ridiculous start possible. The first step of the 4E campaign ends with your party finding a portal in the middle of an open field, surrounded by forest. And the forest begins very rapidly closing in on you. As in, more trees are growing like a freaking time-lapse video in front of your eyes. So naturally, most of us decide that the mystery portal to somewhere is a swell idea and dive through headfirst. D and Dumb, stay behind. And try to fight the forest off. We know they're doing it too.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Be dumb and have fun with it, but still. Finally, when all hope seems lost, they call upon a house rule our DM was known for, the awesome check. Basically, If you're about to do something that's generally pretty epic and badass even in the most mundane of circumstances, he'll have you roll 1. You roll a d20, no modifiers. A natural 1 means your action executes normally. But the higher your roll, the more reality seems to bend itself to your will in that moment to help you be more amazing. It is not something you ask for. Can we roll an awesome check? And as our DM is saying no. D and Dum's D20s both hit the table. And they were both nat 20s. D and Dum high five. Everyone else is roaring with laughter. Our poor DM has this look on his face that just said, I don't want to, but the dice have spoken, why? And after about a minute or two of silence he just...
Wingardium Leviosa.
I had the barbarian full-on yeet me, a halfling rogue, up a canyon wall so I could single-handedly, or in this case double-handedly, kill a black orc with my 2 daggers. DM was amazed I was able to do that, nevertheless alone. From then on I was dubbed the Flying Yeet.
Wingardium Leviosa.
My orc fighter bought a gun, proceeded to shoot down an airship with it. The person piloting the airship crashed on the train they were on. Orc tries to kamikaze and tackle the pilot of the train, killing both of them, gets a nat 1, runs off the train and does instantly.
Wingardium Leviosa.
A nat 20 is not an automatic success, just like a nat 1 is not an automatic failure, except on attack rolls and saving throws. It's usually only people who are relatively new to the game who are under the impression that, for example, a nat 20 on a diplomacy check can persuade the king to hand you the keys to the kingdom. It doesn't work like that.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Depends on the table. Rule of cool trumps all.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Rule of cool shouldn't trump all. It should never give an in-game advantage, because doing so just causes the game to degenerate into doing insanely stupid shit, banking on the 5% chance that you succeed and trivialize whatever was supposed to be there. Only shitty tables make a nat 20 effectively wish.
Wingardium Leviosa.
What is unmanageable for some tables is not categorically bad just because it gets out of hand at others. And rule of cool can apply in different ways. For example, a table where everyone tries insane things just to get the DM to go for it can easily feel not cool at all, as you've expressed, and as such is no longer covered by the rule of cool. I do not believe it to be helpful in any way to categorically call a table shitty just because they play in a style that you would not. They play it that way, and that's perfectly fine as long as they're having fun. You play another way, and that's perfectly fine as long as you're having fun. Because that's the point of playing, fun. The moment you point to a table and call it shitty, you stop making it about having fun.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Once you make a nat 20 accomplish otherwise impossible feats, you're no longer playing D&D, you're just doing freeform RP with the occasional dice roll as a formality. In case you haven't noticed, my tables run as close to raw as possible.
Wingardium Leviosa.
The D&D rules help you and the other players have a good time, but the rules aren't in charge. You're the DM, and you are in charge of the game. That's a direct quotation from the introduction to the 5e Dungeon Master's Guide. The ability to not go with rules as written is literally stated point blank in a core source book for D&D, which I think means it's part of the game. That is to say, you might not think it's D&D, but the people who made D&D think it's D&D. I will trust their opinion over yours. Oh, and I haven't noticed anything about you because this convo is your first impression to me. And considering how needlessly judgmental you're being, I hope it's also the last.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Killed a Balor by the skin of our teeth. Its body disintegrated except it left behind its loincloth. DM wasn't going to have it drop anything in particular. Maybe a coin pouch, but TGE body is gone and so its items should be too. But I rolled a nat 20 on that investigation check, so the DM thought it'd be fitting that I actually found its sword nearby and the ring it wore hidden under the scrap of crotch cloth. The sword was basically a flametongue greatsword +1, and the ring was a ring of command fire elementals. By the end of the session he realized what he'd done and loudly regretted it. LMFAO.
Wingardium Leviosa.
My DM in my first one-shot, forgetting that we haven't fought the end boss. DM, coming down the alley, you see a giant dog blocking the way. You are still unnoticed as a guard goes up to it, whistles and passes by without danger. As you are getting closer you see the dog getting more and more interested, and ready to attack. PC, I try to whistle the same way the guard did. Rolls 17. DM, very well, the dog calms down and lets the group pass without any problems. Insert fight with the guard and a bit of room exploration. DM, as you are looking through the room you hear steps coming out of the hallway. As you take a look, you see a group of guards coming towards you, called by the noise of the fight. Me, I will stay here and wait for them to get closer. Rolls 6 for stealth to do a sneak attack. DM, the guards, clearly seeing you, are now alerted and move quicker towards the room. Me, I
Wingardium Leviosa.
whistle as loud and as bad as I possibly can. Nat 20, DM remembers the giant dog. DM, the guards, starting to sprint as you step into the hallway, were not prepared for what would come as they hear a deafening chalk on blackboard like scratching sound. There was no time for confusion as the giant dog bows down, taking out 3 of the guards in its first strike.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I was running a custom campaign as a new DM with players who were very new to role-playing as it was. In the campaign, they had woken in this town and had to figure out the curse of it and how to break it. The curse isn't the important part though just yet. Eventually the story had them investigating a dwarf who held significant power over the mining trade of the town. This led to my players breaking into his warehouse, finding it full of paid thugs. Eventually they found that the warehouse held an entrance to a massive mining system. The party consisted of a 6-foot-something 300-plus Minotaur fighter wielding a great axe, a 4 feet 10 inches tiefling bard wielding 2 small hand crossbows, a tabaxi monk, and a changeling druid. Somehow my Minotaur player managed to nat 20 several stealth checks that basically ended up with him being able to sneak up behind a thug and cutting him in half. But that's
Wingardium Leviosa.
not all. The curse kept people from dying no matter how bad the injury. So now you have a very low light cave system, an impossibly stealthy killing machine, the screams of men, and of course the other thugs running or shitting themselves to death. My whole plan was to have them caught, but apparently huge hulky Minotaur fighters can pass as rogues. As an aside, the other characters kept rolling badly for stealth. So basically they were making tons of racket while this killing machine was just tiptoeing murder spree time. My player added the backstory that his mother hated the sound of people stomping and had whacked him often in childhood.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Me, so, assuming that I am now 16 feet, with the belt of fire giant strength, could you assume that I can jump up to the Dracolich? DM, oh, what do you have planned? Me, can I or can't I? DM, you can jump up to him? Me, awesome. Make me a strength check as I go to put the Dracolich into a headlock. DM, facepalm, that is an 18. Me, nat 20. I want to bring him down. Round ends. DM, second facepalm, I should have used legendary resistance. But this is more awesome. My bear totem Goliath put a Dracolich into a headlock and brought him to the ground. Probably my highlight as a player. I was playing a bear totem Goliath. It was a one-shot that ran for about 3 sessions. Ended with us fighting against a death knight, and a Dracolich. I took on the Dracolich. Now, since I was 7 feet 11 inches, the DM allowed me to grow an extra inch when I raged, making me a flat 8 feet tall. This is important. I had a belt of fire giant strength, and a great axe of returning +2, but the best item I had was a potion of growth. So, my 3 party members decided that the Death Knight was of higher priority, but I argued that the Dracolich was more important. Beg isn't so tough when he doesn't have a fucking skeletal dragon, right? I targeted the Dracolich, solo. Party managed to knock the Death Knight off the Dracolich somehow. Me, however, wanted to get closer to the big guy that was flying. I rage then chug my potion of growth as an action. DM, okay, you are now 16 feet tall. My round happens again.
Wingardium Leviosa.
We're a pretty easygoing group, so I don't think he face-palmed over it, but my first ever nat 20 of my first ever campaign was when we came across our first merchant and our wizard is trying to sell some of our useless stuff for whatever he can get. I interject and roll for deception to sell a toad tied to a stick as a polymorph wand. DM played off the eye roll well and jumped right into character, saying how he couldn't wait to take it home and use it on his wife. On the opposite end, my first nat 1, my party is down on the street, think center of town. I'm on the roofs, roguing out, things are getting heated and I decide to jump down and want to do it all fancy like. DM makes me roll for acrobatics, nat 1. I face plant into the middle of the group, party and heated NPCs all stop and just stare. No fight ensued, crisis averted.
Wingardium Leviosa.
In one of our sessions, we were facing down a huge horde of animated scarecrow-like creatures, an entire army of the guys. Our tiefling took one look at the map and said, I politely ask them all to leave. An entire war that was supposed to span a few good sessions, so thoughtfully planned out by our DM, was ruined by his decision to let them roll for politeness.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Thief came and stole 50 gold. Rolled to take back money. Nat 20. I got 200 back. Rolled to steal clothes. Nat 20. Stole his clothes. Dude yells what the fuck. Roll to attack. Nat, fucking, 20. He rolls down the stairs that we were on, bursts through the tavern wall, rolls down through the town, and off a cliff. This was all in our first meetup.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Stay operational, at least for tonight. DM, he then offers a bribe of 10,000 credits. Me, there is one other thing I want. Head chef, anything? Me, is he wearing a chef hat? DM, yes, and since he's the head chef, it's like Doug Dimmadome's hat. Infinitely tall me, I want your hat. Head chef, no, please, not my hat. It's my most prized possession. Me, then I guess you wish to be shut down. DM, roll. All success, multiple advantages. DM, as you leave with your chef's hat and briefcase of money, the head chef cries in mourning of what he has lost, and later continues his duties. Now, back to the main group. TLDR, I pretended to be a health inspector as a dirty, shirtless man and walked away with money and a free hat. Permitted. DM, exhausted sigh, unintelligible, me, rolls her. DM, you know what? Sure, go ahead. I don't care. The rest of the party then proceeds with the actual quest, whereas I, Kyojin Wild, proceed to the staffed kitchen to fulfill my duty. DM, so the kitchen is fully staffed, and everyone seems to be in a hurry as the head chef barks orders. He then notices you and proceeds to say, who let this man in here? Does no one understand that we are all very busy in here? You need to leave, now. Me, on the contrary, sir, I am the health inspector, and so far in my short time in your kitchen I have spotted over a dozen discrepancies. I'm afraid I'll have to shut you down immediately. DM, roll. Triumph, no failures, no disadvantages, i.e. the most nat 20 you can get in the game's system. Head chef, no, wait, please. I have 3 kids. I need this job. I'll do anything, please let us. It was in Edge of the Empire, but I think it still fits here. I don't remember what we were doing specifically, but we were trying to get past security into this penthouse-type building during some sort of catered event. Everyone else was trying to talk their way in with genuine persuasion, like please let me through, I need to speak with, insert guy, for a very important reason. Then I come along. Security, all right, and who are you? Standing before him is a shirtless man in bright orange cargo pants with a respiration mask on, literally a psycho from Borderlands. Me, I am the health inspector. Security, aha, sure you are. Me, would you like to see my documentation? Presence note card to DM. The note card reads something along the lines of Certificate of Certification. This certificate is authorized by the Certification Authorization Office. No other questioning is required nor
Wingardium Leviosa.
So it went down like this. We were investigating a house. So far the first 2 floors had nothing and I was going to wait downstairs. I had decided that I'd make some food for the party, so I did exactly that in the kitchen. The party had gone upstairs and found a banshee. We were all level 1, so they started fighting it. Never in my life had I rolled 3 consecutive nat 20 for cooking food. The worst part was I was the only one getting good rolls. My party had almost died in that fight. The DM was upset with my success and the wizard rolled a 1 on his spell, which was directed towards my food after going into a pipe that led into the oven.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I was once trying to put my character in danger to force my magical weapon to protect me, so in a round I moved across a shroud that would have killed me but nat 20'd the fortitude save throw, then a shroud that would have made me insane but nat 20'd the will throw, and eventually a flurry of blades by the enemy that would have greatly damaged me, but, guess what, I nat 20'd the reflex throw.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I play a orcish rogue and our DM put us in a situation where there was an enemy that was many levels higher than us and the objective was to sneak around it and get past it. He gave us the special, giant ballistas to try to distract the enemy with. Long story short, a co-player ends up getting engaged with the enemy, meaning he's now sneak attackable, and I end up firing the giant ballista right into its heart with a nat 20, and because it was a special weapon that the DM planted there, the attack was now 7d10s, instead of 3 cores of the crit, and my sneak attack die ended up one-shotting it and waltzing straight to the end, ruining a day's worth of plans my DM made.
Wingardium Leviosa.
My dice are cursed. My half-orc barbarian rolled a 1 on an attack roll. Failed the reflex save. DM made me roll for damage. Nat 20. My great axe goes scything through the forest around us, finally burying itself in a giant oak way the hell off. Beast we were fighting then decided to eat the defenseless half-orc. I rolled a grapple. Nat 20. I dragon-hearted that bitch for 3 rounds. When I finally failed my grapple, DM decided to fuck with me again, said to roll a luck save. Didn't get the 20, but close. Character avoided death by impact as I went flying through some tree trunks, serendipitously landing beside my great axe. Spent the rest of combat trying to get back to the combat area.
Wingardium Leviosa.
This was from the most recent campaign that my DM was running, and I will never forget this moment. This happened very early on in the campaign, maybe first or second session. We went to an inn/tavern to gather information about a specific person/item we were looking for. To keep it simple, we were told to find a key for a guard's tower and that one of the guards had the key on them and we had to find that guard. We had a group of about 6 of us playing, so we split into 3 groups of 2 to widen our search. We planned to follow one group's story one at a time for about 2 hours in-game time. My time comes and my partner and I were tasked with the stalking the guards closest to the inn. I should mention now that I was warlock and he was a fighter. Either way, both bad stealth stats. We got caught very early on into stalking them and they confronted us. After a few bad rolls, while trying to
Wingardium Leviosa.
persuade them / intimidate them, they engaged us in combat. I would have to say it was kind of an unfair fight. We clobbered their shit in while making a lot of noise doing it. But after we killed the 2 or 3 guards, we noticed that we were fighting right outside the tavern, on the cobblestone road, at like midnight. It is dead quiet and the townspeople watching us started to get nervous and were about to call the guards when I blurted out, "Don't worry. This is just a play that we are practicing and these guards are perfectly fine." I then failed the deception check, and thought to myself, fuck it, it can't get any worse, so I tell the DM. I would like to use Unseen Servant to pick up the dead guard's body and make the corpse bow as they do when plays are over. DM, you realize there are 3 bodies, right? And one Unseen Servant can't pick up all 3, right? We will get there when we cross that bridge. DM, okay, roll. Nat 20. The entire table erupts into laughter. In awe, DM lets me summon 3 unseen servants to make the guards stand up and bow, and then the townspeople start cheering and throwing gold coins at us for putting on such a wonderful show. That moment will be one for the books for a long time. Edit, fixing spacing.
Wingardium Leviosa.
One campaign I was playing a copper dragonborn rogue, acid breath weapon, and I once defeated a cult leader by shitting in his mouth. My thought process simply was, if it comes out from one end, should it naturally come out the other end as well? My DM was both disturbed and intrigued and he told me to roll for it. Rolled a straight nat 20 and the cult leader just kind of melted.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I was playing a one-shot game, and at the end there was a giant boss that we had to fight. Well, a bard wanted to intimidate the boss, and the DM really didn't want me to, but he let me do it anyway. I rolled a nat 20, so the boss, keep in mind, the boss was like 15 feet tall and I was a half-elf on the shorter side, decided to just run away. My DM was really not happy with my actions, but since it was a one-shot, he didn't really care all too much.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Because your DM didn't understand that, with a skill check, just taking 20 and adding your bonus doesn't beat the likely stupid high DC to make a beg just stop what he's doing and flee. Natural 20s on skill checks only means you rolled the highest you could have, not that you rolled guaranteed success no matter the situation.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Well, it was Pathfinder, not D&D, but the nat 20 intimidate from the Intimidate specialist half-orc inquisitor while negotiating a peace treaty. Ended up with a total of something like 60. We got really good trade rights out of it.
Wingardium Leviosa.
My party once fear-stacked a dude until he panicked, ran into a corner, and hid from us, then we basically entombed them with stone shape. We were playing a particularly evil party at the time and 2 of us nat 20'd our intimidate rolls. DM said that before we entombed them we were able to smell that the person we were fighting had in fact shut themselves.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Savage Worlds, not D&D. A giant attacked us while we slept. My character raged and attacked it. In Savage Worlds damage dice explode. If you roll max on the die you roll again and add it. My 1d6 plus 1d8 kept exploding and I did 84 damage and killed it with one blow.
Wingardium Leviosa.
We were playing 2nd edition back in the 90s. Can't quite remember the campaign, but we were trying to steal some magic gem from a dragon. We all sucked at stealth, so the dragon found us and we had to fight it. So we were getting our ass kicked pretty hard when the bard decided to climb a tower, face the dragon and tell the master. Player, I wanna tell him a riddle. You said dragons couldn't resist a good riddle. DM, yes, but it will be kinda hard since you guys already attacked him and the druid is trying to munch his frickin' wing off. You should help you teammates. Player, I will do it anyway. DM, okay, tell you what, you get a 20 and I will allow you, otherwise you are just in front of his face and he will attack you directly. Now this is 2nd edition, where dragons were really hard to kill and its attack would 100% kill the bard. Player, throws a nat 20. DM, size.
Wingardium Leviosa.
You all see how the bard tells a riddle to the dragon and his ego doesn't allow him to concentrate in you guys. You have a free round of attacks. The best part is the dragon failed a very simple INT check every turn for 3 turns. By the time he answered the riddle he was weak enough so that no one had to die that day. It was still a 2-hour fight, and we gave the bard a gem-encrusted +1 mandolin.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Okay. There are a lot. Once I was playing as an very chaotic character. In an early point of the campaign I managed to capture an enemy rouge when she was unconscious. I bring she to the torture room of the castle. Because she was an arcane trickster I had to silence her. She could just make an spell and run away. My brilliant idea was remove her vocal cords, nat 20 medicine, and then interrogate her. I would say that she sing like a bird, but with a nat 20 intimidation she was very communicative. Even the NPCs and players around gained fairy phobia. Later, I roll nat 20 constitution check to drink essence of pure evil. Eventually I had to reinsert her vocal cords but neither of the roll were more than 10, at that time I already had spent all my lucky. There was another time that I was the DM. A player was fighting against a female tabaxi almost full.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Transformed in a slad, the player, that was playing a female naga, tried to lick the nose of that thing when it was restricted by the druid of the party. The nat 20 lick made the monster being confused. She don't save the confusion in like 3 turns, where she did nothing and the cuddles were getting stronger. Finally they don't kill her and took her with them. In other session they cured her, the everything were back to normal. But the tabaxi had fallen in love with the naga, because in this campaign the tabaxi propose marriage by licking their noses.
Wingardium Leviosa.
So, I was taking an exam, and making use of a particular companion that I have that the entire party hates. One of the party members decided to magically intervene, and lower my odds. I noticed she was watching, it was like a public thing, and I saw something odd happen to my companion. I rolled to try and see if I could work out what happened to my companion, and got a nat 20, knowing exactly what happened. The DM then realized he is gonna have to role-play a lawsuit between 2 characters. Pretty sure that was a facepalm moment.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Own head, vaporizing the worm instantly and creating a racial memory in all wormkind as well as a new worm religion that will forevermore worship you. Oddly enough we never bumped into a giant worm again. TLDR, tried to get a giant carnivorous worm pet, became god of all worms, thus vaporizing said potential pet. Including 2 barbarians who had decided to join us as extra muscle, a bat which our rogue elf with dwarfism was flying around on, a goblin miner called Pike with an unfortunate predicament regarding the continued placement of a pike shaft in his butthole. You get the picture. The DM was getting more and more frustrated by our additional NPC gathering. DM, with a face that exudes nothing but the sentiment of fuck this, sure, why not? You're going to need to roll pretty high. ME, nat 20. DM, sighs with exasperation, so basically, you reach out towards the worm, focusing on its mind to convert it to the power of light. Beams of light extend towards the creature and you both start glowing. However you misjudge the power needed, and it starts to view you as its worm god. Being in the presence of its own god, its worm brain is unable to comprehend what's happening and implodes within its. Majorly messed with a DM on this one. I was playing as Warforged Cleric with wings at the time. Our party was trekking through the cavernous tunnels of a goblin mine deep underground in order to kill the Goblin King, David Bowie plus his semi-sentient codpiece, on behalf of some barbarians we had insulted. We had promised to make up for it by getting rid of their goblin problem, another tale entirely. Suddenly we heard a large rumbling sound and felt the tunnel shake around us. Lo and behold, a giant flesh-eating worm breaks out of the ground in front of us, opening its maw and baring its huge teeth ready to devour us. DM, what do you want to do? Me, high charisma and intelligence, can I convert the worm? DM, can you what? Me, I want to convert the worm. At this point, it's worth mentioning that we had already gathered a small horde of following companions, pets and mounts.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Decided to move on. But before leaving I pulled my giant nail off my back and attacked the wall. Rolled a nat 20, confirmed the crit with another 20 and rolled a third nat 20 for the instant kill. Using Bang's finishing move, I one-shot that wall. Turns out the DM just wanted us to notice that there was plant life, and he was just humoring us attacking the wall. But to reward my rolls he created a new pathway in the dungeon for us to go through. I don't know if the DM actually facepalmed BC we were playing online, but everyone was laughing and he was in stunned silence for a solid minute, so I like to think so. I was playing a human monk based off the video game character Bang Shishigami. We were in our first dungeon crawl and had reached a dead end in the cave we were exploring. The DM told the party to roll perception checks and I was the only one who rolled high enough to notice that vines were growing out of the cracks in the walls. Thinking the cracks meant there was something behind the wall, I punched the wall. When rolling the damage, the DM told us that the wall shook a bit and more cracks appeared where my fist hit the wall. At this point the whole party started attacking the wall and one character with a shape-shifting weapon made a pickaxe and started digging. After about 5 minutes of us getting nowhere we
Wingardium Leviosa.
late to the party, but here we go. So, I was playing a halfling arcane trickster rogue, second character ever, don't be mad that I was being generic, and the party had just finished clearing the lair of a twisted alchemist, who had succumbed to his own experiments. There was a tree growing up through the shop that was being slowly killed and twisted by the chemicals the creatures that broke loose had spilled. So, once we get outside the druid, my IRL wife, says, the tree is suffering, we should put it out of its misery, this place needs to be burned down. Unbeknownst to me, she intended on saying a prayer and lighting the building on fire with a spell. Instead, right as we get outside. Instead, my character goes okay, sure, I can handle that and state I throw a flask of alchemist fire over my shoulder as I'm walking away. The DM, thinking it would be funny for me to fail it, tells.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Got the key, the linchpin of his whole plan was in my hand, and I just casually returned to the group. Once combat starts he begins to rummage through his pockets and is distracted by not being able to find it. The monk took this opportunity to nail him with a stunning strike, and we lit him up. Then the monk's second hit took him out. The monk was then rewarded with a lighting teleportation gauntlet that he 100% was freaked out by, but kept in case we needed it. Our DM just sat there with his facepalm firmly in place, and said congratulations, you ruined the final battle with your s-hole of a rogue, and I struggle to argue with that description to this day. It wasn't a long campaign, but the shit that I pulled as Merrick the asshole is still talked about randomly during sessions a year later. Building, and when the shockwave hit him he fell face first into the mud and the druid who was performing her prayer from a safe distance before casting Produce Flame no longer has eyebrows. She still scowls at me if it comes up in conversation. Honorable mention. Not a nat 20, but in this same campaign we were supposed to fight a mad scientist at the end with all of this crazy machinery at his disposal for the final battle. Well, unbeknownst to me, he had created a key so that only he could activate the machinery. So, at the beginning of the battle the DM is monologuing as the mad scientist and I interrupted him. I'd like to sneak over and pickpocket him while he's preoccupied with his ego. The DM stared at me and said, "Fine, his ego is pretty engrossing, roll for stealth and sleight of hand." I nail high rolls on both, and with my modifiers hit 25 and 27 respectively. I meet a roll for sleight of hand to see if I can hit the window. Sure enough I hit a nat 20. He just looks the dice, then looks at me, facepalms, yes, actually did the movement, and then described what happened. Okay, well shit, the flask flies through one of the broken panes in the window, missing the glass entirely, bounces off of the corpse of one of the creatures, rolls down the stairs to the basement, where it bounces off of the last step hard enough to go airborne again, finally breaks when it hits a puddle of chemicals mixing on the floor. Wouldn't you know it, all of them are flammable. Now, since this is in a town, you don't just blow up this building, you take walls off of the two next to it and shake a square block. Now, the paladin had splattered a monster so hard earlier that he had already left right before us to go clean himself up while we finished up investigating the
Wingardium Leviosa.
Playing in the D&D Next playtest. My wife had rolled up, with some homebrew help from our DM, a Warforged fighter for this campaign. And the entire time over multiple sessions, her dice rolls were on fire. Ever see a 7-foot-tall, 450-pound tin can out-stealth a rogue? We did, multiple times. As we were exploring a dungeon, our party had managed to discover a secret room. And then we found the double secret room within that room. Inside were all sorts of shiny things, including a gigantic golden statue of a tiger. I, a dragonborn war priest, slightly skeptical of this statue, decide that it's a good idea to lightly poke said statue with my longsword. Big mistake. The gold begins to flow and turn to fur. So here I am, now face to face with a dire tiger that's ready to eat me, and my wife decides that she's going to intimidate this beast into submission. Nails the nat 20 on the
Wingardium Leviosa.
intimidation check, and follows it up with an insane animal handling check because she wanted the big kitty to be her pet. The combination flustered our DM, who just threw his hands up and said fine. You now have a dire tiger as a pet. And that's how our Warforged fighter ended up with a dire tiger mount.
Wingardium Leviosa.
We were in a tavern and the DM had made it obvious there was a group of very powerful high-level bounty hunters sitting at one of the tables. My party decided to talk to them for information and to see how cool they are. Long story short, they insult one of my friends, so I walk around the back of their table behind the strongest guy who was like 7 feet tall with a claymore. I grabbed a tin cup or a tankard as my DM would call it and I said I'm going to hit him in the back of the head. DM had me roll. I rolled a nat 20 and he died instantly. Everyone died laughing.
Hey guys, this is the Rogue YouTuber here. I recently had a big change in my life. I had a baby daughter. Here she is. If you could do me a favor and remember to hit the subscribe button and bang the bell, I'm hoping to really create a YouTube channel that really gets people excited and brings people the best, most interesting content collated from across the internet. I'm saving up to save my little girl to Carnegie Mellon Computer Science Department. So please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.